Listen, beautiful people, and welcome back to another Zero Cut content reaction video. Huge shout out Annie News who puts together these videos. Link to their channel in the description. Alright, so Subaru is buggered. This guy is not having a good time at all. And that all started at the end of the last episode, and man, I got some questions. So we are going to need to jump into this, and that's where Annie News has our back. Thank you so much to the ReZero community for being so freaking supportive. On Twitter, you guys are amazing. On YouTube, the reactions are crushing it. You guys have been awesome. I really appreciate all the support. I hope you're enjoying the reactions from our channel. Anyway, I'm gonna stop freaking talking. Let's just go. Like, subscribe if you want more. Let's reach 100K already. Come on, let's subscribe. This is my first reaction to the cut content from Season 4, Episode 7 of ReZero.
It was never the worst thing that could possibly happen to Subaru.
Yeah,
dying
facts.
was always just part of the job for him, so long as he had the ability to keep resetting, then no matter the challenge, him and the Amelia camp would always overcome whatever obstacles they faced.
Yeah,
What
he was the
happens
guy.
then if Subaru remembers neither the job nor his ability? Well, I guess you could call that a fate worse than death. You see, if Subaru truly doesn't remember anything about himself, then the whole story of ReZero is just flipped on its head now. Subaru has always been the person driving this whole journey forward, so with that driver now gone, you gotta wonder, where does the car go now? Before that came some of the most powerful interactions yet, so if you want to see those or learn more about anything else that happened this episode, stick around as we'll cover all of it. Let's get started.
I love these
Episode
cut content
73,
videos so much,
Coming
man.
out of the convenience store, there was a wondrous world. Covering chapters 6 and 7 from
that the
volume
title
22
of this?
the light novel.
This episode?
With Julius having to spend some time in the green room again, it's interesting to note his injuries weren't as bad as they looked. It seemed Raid's style was to hold back just enough. Not just anyone was capable of doing that though, especially if all they were wielding were chopsticks. No,
I still do find Raid's reaction curious to Subaru. Is it just because Subaru like came up there all whiny? It was the first time we've seen him react to that level of hostility. But it could be Subaru's reaction that rubbed him up the wrong way.
The fact Raid could further reinforced why he was a legendary hero. More than ever, Subaru understood how this was the man who worked with the Sage and Holy Dragon to defeat the Witch of Envy. Now, with Julius
crazy to
confined
think he
to the
did
green room
something
for a bit,
considered
Subaru
good.
figured this was a good time to find an answer to the test above
Because he
them.
seems pretty evil.
That much Ram could tell from the expression on his face, but what she also saw was how anxious he was. As far as she could tell, everyone and everything he was currently worried about was right there in the green room. Subaru made sure to tell Ram that wasn't true, since in addition to the obvious candidates of Beatrice and Amelia, Ram was someone he was looking out for too. On the outside, Ram obviously wasn't receptive to Subaru's feelings, but it'd be silly to think those words didn't actually mean a lot to her. In any case, if you were confused about Subaru's reference to measles, that was him just saying Julius's condition was something everyone experienced once. If not as a child, then unfortunately in a far worse state as an adult.
Yeah.
Such
Jeez,
was how
man.
measles were, and the same could be said for Julius's mental state.
Yeah,
Now, Subaru's
at some point in everyone's life, you're gonna be down. You're not gonna just live life just riding high. It's not gonna happen. I mean, you could, I guess, but it would be very bad for your health. At some point, we're all gonna be here. Everyone has to do it.
discussion with Shaula would
It's how
circle
you
back to Raid again,
act afterwards.
Subaru wanting to know if she knew anything that may help them. Whether it be his personality, his habits, his relations, or anything else, at this point, any information was useful information.
He literally is putting the biggest
had
duck face
Shaula
ever.
known anything that could even affect Raid in the slightest, then, according to her, she would have taken advantage of it to get back at him for groping her already. The reason she hasn't been able to do that is because, as far as she knew, Raid had no weak points. He did falter with beautiful women and he did scratch his butt while fighting, but neither were traits Subaru could
I
take
didn't even
advantage
notice
of.
the butt scratch. That's
It's
amazing.
not like attractiveness
Let's
was
make
a
his butt
guaranteed
even
way
more
of beating
itchy.
him either, since had Amelia struck with the intent to kill, everyone knew Raid never would have left himself open. His reaction obviously changed depending on whether there was an intent to kill him or not. That meant they couldn't let him get serious, enough to prevent his tempers from raising. It wouldn't hurt to keep him entertained too, so that left making sure whatever standards Raid had were met.
What a fucking difficult opponent to fight, right? Not only are they unbelievably strong and could win at any time, but you have to calm their tempers, but still fight them and keep them entertained enough, but not too entertained that they kill you. Oh my word, the Goldilocks zone much?
If they could do that, then brute force wouldn't be necessary. Not that such an option was even feasible to begin with. But anyway, when it came down to it, this second test was honestly just as sadistic as the first. Where the first was testing knowledge from a different world, this next one tested strength against the world's strongest. So, both may at first seem like the answer is straightforward, but with a closer look, it's pretty clear the real goal is something completely different. And the group was currently stuck figuring out what that was. Now, just in case it wasn't evident with Shaula's face and tone, the way she spoke about taking their time carried with it the weight of who she was. She may have kept a smile similar to what she usually wore, but now she was speaking from the heart. Her desire to have them stay carried the weight of the guardian who'd protected the tower for centuries. It was in this moment that Subaru realized something crucial, and that was that Shaula was never an ally. Sure, she may seem affectionate and she may act friendly, but her words here reminded Subaru her primary role took precedence. That being the case, nothing behind the way she acted truly meant she was an ally to anyone. If there was one thing this sincere smile did show to Subaru though, it was unfortunately the fact Shaula couldn't be trusted.
Why can't she be trusted though? If she's supposed to be underneath who we're kind of wondering if it's going to be Subaru to begin with, and she calls Subaru her master, then surely she can be trusted to some degree, right? Obviously after the events of last episode, I don't know, man, but like, you know what I mean? Why can't we trust her? I know she has a role to play, but that role was given to her by, presumably in her eyes, Subaru, who she sees as her master. I don't know.
The thing
Sounds
is,
trustworthy-ish.
caution already should have been being taken due to how strong she was, but because of her friendliness and apparent foolishness, both of those together completely diffused their suspicion towards her.
True.
So, here she was telling them they could all stay as long as they wanted, casually
Well, I guess that just shows that maybe she'd work against them because she doesn't want them to leave.
reminding them they were stuck whether they liked it or not. Time was most definitely of the essence because with the journey to here a month and the journey back another month, the days they've spent here already could very well turn into yet another month. 3 months were quite a long time to spend on this, especially with the royal selection being the deadline for them. You see, when Subaru first arrived, that was still 3 years out, but with a year and change having passed since then, less than 2 years were left for the Amelia camp to ready themselves. That being the case, to spend 3 months of that here was definitely not ideal.
I can't believe the royal selection's even still happening
the food
after all
the group
this.
brought with them in the carriage, but when it came to their water, that was normally created with magic. It was how they got by before the desert, but now that they were in the desert, they could no longer use mana to create water. Reason being that the miasma in the air would cause that water to be tainted. We already know miasma absorbed by their gates causes them to go crazy, but for miasma ingested, that had a completely different effect.
What happens then?
Beatrice couldn't be sure of what exactly would happen, but if she had to guess, an internalized miasma buildup would likely cause everyone to develop the same mob beast attracting trait that Subaru had.
Oh.
How then was the group gonna get their water? Well, the spirit in the green room was kind enough to produce purified water for them. So, water was no longer gonna be this issue, but as far as food went,
I love how it's just something I didn't even consider. Like, I'll be honest, I didn't give a fuck where they were getting their water from. At no point was I watching ReZero going, this is all great, but where's the water coming from? No point. But that's why these car content videos are the best. Because I never would have asked that question, but I got the answer anyway.
they had was a month's worth. Don't ask me why they decided to serve so much then, but no one was planning to stay longer than a month anyway. Now, it was while Amelia was making dinner that Subaru, Beatrice, and Shaula would then walk around the tower for a bit. Subaru hated the tower's design, mainly because the layout was confusing and there wasn't a map for it. Beatrice agreed, then called the person who designed it twisted, a clear insult to Shaula's master that Shaula didn't really appreciate. The whole scene wasn't anything particularly important, but these small interactions do build the way everyone perceives each other. So, when Julius joined their dinner, unlike how we saw in the anime, his first words were the acknowledgement of his disrespect towards Amelia. For most, such words would naturally be perceived as chivalrous, but for Ram, she sarcastically called it laudable, suggesting it would have been
Laudable. Deserving of praise, commendation, or admiration, typically used to describe efforts, goals, or actions that are noble and worthy of approval. Also a good thing.
Better to remember his position sooner. She even went so far as to imply her trust with him was broken, a very harsh statement considering what that trust meant to Julius. Even Subaru found it a bit much too, but no one would tell her what she said was unjustified. I mean, sure, Ram was clearly more on edge than usual, but considering what was at stake, it was only natural she wanted to ensure every resource at her disposal was being used to the best of its ability, Julius included. Julius fully understood that, so he had no problem taking responsibility here. All the other girls would then voice their satisfaction with his apology too, even Shaula using yet another saying that didn't make sense in this world. Dinner would then proceed exactly as we saw, the only difference being Subaru taking note of Ram's ability to cook. It's not like she couldn't before.
She makes a lot of weird statements, doesn't she? A lot of weird statements. There's a lot of weird things that don't really make sense in this world. There's so much more to this tower, her story, her master, Subaru, the connections to everything. So much more, and they are giving us nothing.
It's just that she actively chose not to. It didn't even matter whether Ram was part of her life or not, because Ram's neglect for housework was absolute. It was after dinner that Subaru would have liked to have an all-night meeting figuring out what the best way to approach things were, but considering their opponent and his seeming lack of intent to kill them, it was better to be in peak condition rather than be slightly more organized. If anything, they could just run the test trial and error style, then learn more with every attempt through conversations with Raid. Whatever the plan may be, that was something for the Subaru of tomorrow to figure out. In the meantime, Subaru would get the privilege of spending the night in the green room, Julius conceding believing Rem was the one waiting for him. The truth, however, was the opposite, since it wasn't Rem waiting for the time when they could talk without interruptions. No, the one yearning for it most was Subaru. That was the full extent of his thoughts during his moment here. Fast forward to later on in the night, and the reason Subaru decided to chase the bird instead of waking anyone up is because there was this sinking feeling that something bad was gonna happen. Subaru couldn't be sure of what, but his instincts were telling him not to lose sight of the bird. When it came to finding the secret passage after,
was something bad gonna happen? Do not lose sight of the bird. What was the point in the bird? Do you know what's interesting as well about the bird is they both said the bird led them here. It's almost like the tower led them here. The bird itself. Is the bird part of a tower? But why did the bird lead them here? It could just be a complete coincidence. The bird just flied through this gap and just knew about it. But I don't know. That is another thing,
its hidden entrance was very similar to the one that the witch cultists had once used. It's for that reason he wasn't entirely surprised, but he was nervous about what awaited him on the other side of it. Well, aside from the strangeness of it being Aridona, what was even more weird were the birds accompanying her. First off, none of the birds were the same, so where the anime made it seem like they were all doves, in actuality, they were a flock made up of completely different species and colors. There was no unifying principle that made it seem like these birds even belonged here. Next was the way these birds acted, since you'd think they'd make noise or at least rustle their wings a bit, but not a single bird moved or even chirped. They were these stationary objects whose sole purpose seemed to be observation.
Like cameras. Who do they operate for then? And they led them here and they're all around her? Are they like cameras? Do they go out and navigate around the desert and just report back?
All they appeared to do was stare at them. Such peculiarity led Subaru to be on the defensive, since if any of his past deaths had taught him anything, it would be that being careless in situations like these was life-threatening. It's because of this that Aridona would make it clear she wasn't a threat, only bearing malice towards the two examiners. That's when Subaru would fill her in on who Raid was, followed by his intent to speak openly to her. Instantly, Aridona would flip like a switch, switching her personality in a way that made her seem like a completely different person. She would then ask if Subaru was gonna join her by the balcony, but considering the name of who it was he was talking to now, Subaru decided it was best to refrain from that. This hesitation was the one thing Aridona found the most annoying, since even if Echidna was her creator, to constantly be compared to a person she didn't even know felt awful. It was something Subaru agreed he'd try to work on, but at the end of the day, that was just how deep of a scar Echidna had left on him.
It's funny because she was never massively malicious. but still the shit she put him through wasn't exactly fun. Like, even though she did it with a kind of a twisted ass smile, it wasn't like she was like, I don't know, it's hard to justify it. She was pretty fucked up, but she wasn't as... It's crazy that we're comparing levels of fucked up in ReZero, man. She definitely wasn't up there. We've had other people way higher. It's also nuts how many people have actually tried or successfully killed Subaru. How many that he's actually chilling with now.
It also didn't help that Aridona's behavior and mannerisms were all exactly like how Echidna's were. Subaru would then
Falsely
ask how
friendly.
Aridona could just casually touch these birds, suggesting they might just swarm her and peck her to death. Aridona
What?
could only chalk
Weird.
up such a fate to his imagination, but Subaru doubled down by saying he had a bad run-in with some bunnies once. It was ever since that he'd always been a bit nervous when surrounded by animals, a fair response considering what it was that had happened to him. Next came Aridona's probing into Subaru's past, a topic Subaru had never had to navigate before. With Anastasia having retraced his steps perfectly, Subaru wasn't sure what to say happened before that. It was strange to see his origins and his identity as an unknown person were what was holding him back now. Before, Anastasia just assumed Subaru was this unknown rookie knight blessed with the accomplishment of multiple great feats, but after the battle in Pristella and now this journey to the tower, her and Aridona's impressions of him were starting to change. In truth, she wanted nothing more than for Subaru to just be open with her, but no matter how trustworthy or sincere Aridona made herself out to be, Subaru's past with Echidna made it so he could never trust her.
I do find it interesting that how people sort of perceive him. Because you can imagine the more time people hang out with him, the more they're going to want to know about him. And the less he has to say. Because there is like only so much he can say. He also isn't able to reveal every bit of information, but there's only so much he can actually tell you anyway, because prior to that, he didn't exist in this world. Presumably so. Presumably so. So yeah, like, even if he wanted to be open, it's kind of hard for him to be any more than he
Aridona's
already
behavior
is.
matched that of the Witch of Greed, the harder it became for Subaru to believe anything she said. To him, there was what could only be described as the residual stench of the witch. Trust was a two-way street though, and with Subaru being unwilling to give his, Aridona justifiably couldn't give hers in exchange. Thus the reason both were on the fence about each other. In the end, they would just chalk their meeting up to coincidence, then proceed to discuss both where they were and the new company they had. The balcony they figured was meant for Shaula to snipe people, while the birds Aridona believed were part of a puzzle. They were definitely alive since their bodies felt warm, but with the way they didn't react to anything, that made Aridona feel like they were operating with a purpose.
My presumption would have been balcony is there where she goes to snipe people. That's why it has this sort of secret entrance and stuff. It's her private balcony where no one can sneak up on her. She feels a bit safe, you know, like no big door behind her. Even though there's no reason for it, it still seems like a safer option. That was my guess. And the birds operate as cameras, sort of like scouts, so she can see them out there with like extra eyes, you know? She can't cover every single angle of this tower at once. So that makes sense. That would have been my guess. That's what I would have guessed.
She would have liked to take one apart and see what was inside, but for her to kill one, that would require magic. So instead she would just ask Subaru to strangle one, a request he was surprisingly open to.
What?
Hunting had actually become an extensive part of Subaru's training, so
Did they kill one of the
killing
birds?
birds and rabbits were no longer difficult for him. Killing for food was far different from killing for an experiment though, so if he was to kill the bird, it'd be so that they can eat it after. At least that way they could manage their food situation better.
I guess.
Now, Julius's arrival was preceded
Did
by
they
a
kill the
very
bird?
important event because
Did they
if you
do it?
didn't notice, this was a bird that came from behind Aridona and Subaru. That meant it was another bird from inside the tower, one we can only assume was leading Julius here.
Yeah,
If
weird.
true, it changes the context of this meeting from coincidence to something more.
Yeah.
Almost like someone wanted all three of them to meet here. That being the case, for three separate birds to lead three
Something's going on, man. It is weird. Is it the tower? Who the fuck pushed Subaru down the stairs? So many questions, man.
separate people all to the same
I still reckon
meeting
it's a
spot,
little girl with
I don't
blue
think
hair.
that was a coincidence at all.
My money's on her.
Then, as if the birds' jobs were done, all would fly off at the sound of Julius asking his question. This was a difficult question to answer since the secrets shared by Subaru and Aridona involved everything from artificial spirits and the Witch of Greed all the way to gluttony's authority and other things. It wasn't a conversation one could just walk into the way Julius just did. Now, Not noticing his master wasn't even his master naturally went to hurt Julius, but from Subaru's perspective, Julius was set to fail from the beginning. His life was already crumbling right in front of him, so how could someone with so much going on expect to be the proper first knight he was supposed to be?
True.
Like, if being a knight meant not being allowed to hurt, then to Subaru, being a knight was a curse on Julius. When it came to Aridona saying who she was next, though her resolve to die was certainly there, in truth, she didn't want to die. Her dying wasn't even guaranteed to bring Anastasia back, but whether Julius actually believed her was a different story. I mean, this could after all just be an evil spirit saying whatever was necessary to stay in Anna's body.
I've never really thought about the fact that the whole reason Julius might be so blind to all of this is literally because he's just got so much shit going on. Now it's been pointed out, it makes so much sense.
A large part of her desire to stay alive, though, stemmed from the incomplete relationship her and Anastasia shared together. It was one a proper spirit mage could never understand. So, she didn't expect Julius or Subaru to get what it was she was saying, but she did hope that they would at least respect it. Julius's own acknowledgement of it stemmed from a desperate attachment to one of the few things he had left, the fealty he pledged to the person he valued most. With all else lost and that fealty now denied, though, Julius couldn't even properly feign calmness anymore. In fact, it was astonishing he didn't show any emotion beyond that. The way he still managed to keep composed despite everything, well, that was just a testament to the way he lived his life.
Puck.
He fully understood arguing would get them nowhere. So, instead, he would use Aridona as motivation, allowing her to speak in her true voice as a reminder of who it was he was missing. Aridona couldn't help but be saddened by those words, but if they were what motivated Julius, then she couldn't say anything. In the end, Julius's actions could be reduced to one single sentence. To Subaru, it was the sentiment of even if he was forgotten, he would never forget. That was the feeling Subaru was certain kept Julius going forward. Now, Julius's own final words acted like a thorn to Subaru, enhancing his guilt instead of relieving it. Subaru had hoped Julius would express his grievances, but rather than vent his anger like how he thought he would have, instead, Julius just made Subaru feel worse. That's why he would walk around the tower looking all dejected, an emotion Ram would pick up instantly.
It's literally because Julius is going through so much shit, Subaru's not able to help him, and even though Subaru and Julius have this weird relationship, at the end of the day, they are friends. Pretty obviously, which again is reiterated by the next episode when Julius just seems completely heartbroken that Subaru did forget him, the one person who remembered him. I still find it interesting that she did so much to save Julius, but maybe that was just because she knew that there was a lot of meaning behind the person she's inhabiting there, right? Anastasia. I don't know, man. I don't know. Julius scares the crap out of me, if I'm being honest. Not in a sense I think he'd do anything bad, but in a sense that I just think bad things happen to him.
Aside from that, the reason she had attempted to go up to Raid was to try her hand at a sneak attack. At first, she thought she might be able to assassinate him while he was sleeping, but after getting halfway up, she realized it was impossible. Halfway up the stairs was enough for her to sense that Raid's threat level made Garf's look like nothing. It was before leaving that Ram would make a surprisingly crude comment.
That's kind of interesting. His threat level makes Garf's look like nothing. I don't think Garf had that high of one, but that is an interesting statement.
It was before leaving that Ram would make a surprisingly
If you hold us back because of your lack of sleep, I'll twist it off. Show me his donger.
Rude comment, after which is when we get the twist.
The twist? She did it! She fucking did it! That is the worst choice of words ever. That is... She actually did it. She twisted that bad boy off.
It's to know what it is Subaru was trying to do prior.
Up.
His mind was enveloped with the thought of how to handle Raid, the key to which revolved around making him satisfied without letting him get serious. It was a concept that was most definitely vague, but at the very least, it was a surefire way to ascend the tower without anyone dying. It was then that Subaru believed all they had to do was firm up that plan, a thought which led to a Eureka moment. We don't know what it is he thought or what those thoughts relate to, but what he did say was, if this works well. 4 words likely pertaining to a gamble of sorts. Subaru couldn't say whether his idea was sure to work or not, but if it did, he said it had the potential to move things forward greatly. So,
I reckon He went to the library, found Raid's book, read Raid's book. I have had theories before of Subaru finding his own books, because like he's died multiple times. Would the library not be full of that? I don't really know how it works though, because technically he hasn't died at all, but also has died loads. So it depends on how the library works. But I would have presumed he went and found Raid's book. But if he did find Raid's book, and then is trying to navigate it that direction to give Raid satisfaction without making him angry, could he find someone from Raid's past? But how would this all result in Subaru's memory being
Was
wiped?
that exciting thought which led him to run off deeper into the tower, the only things remaining of him his footsteps. Now, it'll probably be a while before we find out what it is Subaru was trying to do, so if I was to make a personal guess as someone who only reads the novel up to where we are in the anime, I think Subaru went to talk with Raid. That talk then led to Subaru succeeding, and whatever awaited him at the floor above was what rendered Subaru in the state we see now.
That was my guess, but clearly this is before we get to the next episode, because that was my initial guess. That Subaru went, succeeded, and his own curiosity got the better of him, and he was like, right, I'll go check the next floor, and then I'll go, like, report back. Because Subaru wouldn't go back and say, guys, I've succeeded, let's go. So that was my guess as well, until we found him in the library. That's where things changed for me, surrounded by books on the floor. Because then that changes everything, because that implies that he didn't. And then, in the next episode, we also saw him go and see Raid, and Raid, you know, threw him down the stairs, basically told him to fuck off. So he definitely didn't succeed. So that was my thought, but it has to be something to do with the library, and it has to be something to do with a book he's found. At first, I thought it would be something to do with one of the witches, and maybe he found a book to do with one of the witches, but again, I don't know how that would result in his memory being wiped. That's the thing. Did he read a book with one of the witches? Did he read something so traumatic it wiped his memory? You would presume he'd be looking for Raid's book, but how would they even find it to begin with? Curious, what would have done that to him? What would have made his memory go?
At least I think these were the stairs leading up to Raid, but whether I'm right or wrong, don't tell me anything.
I also
It's
thought
just
they
what
were
I
the
think
stairs
is
leading up
most
to Raid.
plausible. In any case, in the novel, what happened next was Subaru's awakening, the beginning of Subaru's new adventure. The anime depicts it pretty much like.
I actually thought Annie News had read the entire thing. I didn't realize Annie News was reading it as we go. It's kind of cool.
But what ultimately gave away the fact he was isekai'd was Patrash. Now, I really wish I could tell you more, but that's exactly where Volume 22 ends. There is, however, an interlude about the Witch of Wrath, but that could still be included next episode. It is worth noting the official ReZero YouTube channel uploaded a brand new music video for Redo, the very first opening from Season 1. More importantly than that, though, is the way the music video shows the events of the anime in reverse. We go backwards from Season 4 to Season 1, almost as if to imply we're starting all over again. The very last scene being Subaru coming out of the convenience store. So, with the name of the episode being what it is, I imagine Subaru's memories are wiped all the way back to that. How long that lasts I couldn't tell you, but the implications of such a fate flip the story right on its head. Everything the group was working towards now just comes to a standstill. So, I'm super excited to see where the story goes next.
Thank you so much, Annie News, for your awesome work, by the way. Again, I had no idea that this dude was reading them as the story goes on. No clue. What could it be? What could it be, guys? What the hell could it be? What could it be? Should I come up with some kind of theory now? What do you reckon? The thing is, I don't have one. I wish I did. Right? Should I try and come up with one? Mine would have been similar to Annie News's until we saw the last episode. So now mine has also shifted. We have two things going on here. Keep that in mind. We have someone is pushing Subaru. And we have, like, killing him. And we have someone... and we have Subaru's memory being wiped because of his own plan. Those are the two things which we don't know what the fuck is going on. As to who I think would push Subaru, it has to be someone in the group. We haven't met anyone else. Shaula wouldn't do it. It's not Shaula. Amelia wouldn't do it. Not Amelia. Julius, no. Anastasia, I can't imagine. Ram, no. She might be angry because of the memory loss, But I don't think she'd be so angry she'd kill him, even though she has done in the past. She wouldn't do that because of Rem. So because of her love for Rem, I can't see her killing Subaru. Because he would die, right? Which means, for me, if you take every character we have, it narrows it down to one. Our blue-haired girl. And I don't mean the sleeping one. And if that's the case, like, if it has to be one of them, she's the only one I feel like would push him. She looked all nefarious and was giving him weird evil eyes and was acting strange the last episode as well. So maybe it's her. She's tried to kill them before. Would make sense. But then the other thing is they all walked off together. Meaning that if one of them snuck off from the rest of the group or said they need to go back, killed Subaru, then they would be caught. Because the rest of the group would go, well, you vanished, Subaru ended up dead, it's clearly you. It's like a game of Among Us. You weren't there, we were all there, you must have been you. So if that's the case, then you would imagine that maybe it wasn't someone in the group. And if it wasn't someone in the group, then who the hell was it? We do have people in the room. Could someone have woken up? I don't think so. Why would someone wake up and push him? I don't know. Parachute, maybe? Seems weird, though. Maybe it's someone new. If it is someone new, where from? Someone new in this place? I mean, we know the building's kind of awake because the birds are moving people and that sort of stuff. So there is still shit going on. Is it like a golem character just wandering around trying to find the one true ring? So that would be my prediction, because I can't think of anybody else. I reckon blue-haired girl is the one pushing him. I don't know why she'd do it, and I'm surprised if she is her, but I can't think of anyone else who would. And I don't know why she even would. Then we move on to what happened. Well, he ended up in the library. So we know whatever he did had to be in the library. He was trying to think of a way to satisfy Raid. It seems weird that he would then go, oh, I should go read his book, because it seems too obvious. Which would make me wonder if it wasn't his book he was looking for. So I don't think it was. I reckon Subaru went and read someone else's. Went back to the library, looked around, found a book. Or didn't find the book he was looking for, but instead found a different one. A different book. And this different book wasn't part of his plan. Maybe Subaru's plan didn't succeed. Maybe Subaru's plan failed. Maybe he found something along the way, got distracted, something traumatic happened and his memory has been wiped. Maybe he found a different book. Maybe the library is very big. He could have easily found something by accident. And that's what's caused us to end up here. He either read his own books, he's read Raid's book, or something else. And if it is something else, maybe it's like someone in the group. Maybe one of them's not alive. Maybe one of them's died before. Maybe something fucked up like that. I don't know. Anyway, those are some theories. I don't really know. It's super hard to work out. They've done a really good job of writing this because I have no clue. And I love that. I love being clueless. Because it means whatever the reveal is going to be, it's just going to surprise me. Because I can't predict shit. And that's what I want. I want to be stumped. Anyway, huge shout out to Annie News. Let me know your theories as well, but don't spoil anything. Just keep it theories only. Like and subscribe, and I guess I'll see you guys on Wednesday for the next episode. As always, my friends, you will see me in the next video.